Theme park employees, please share your horror stories and theme park secrets. How to make the best of your time. I worked on a major roller coaster many years ago. Two preteen boys rode in the front seat and were screaming down the first hill. The ride takes a sharp turn there and one of the kids managed to have his teeth hit the other kid's forehead. They rode for the next 2.5 minutes screaming and bleeding as only a head injury can. Came back into the station looking like everyone in the first section had been in a war. A ride they will always remember. That must have made for an amazing souvenir photo. I worked in a water park in a dual park single entrance location of a very common chain of theme parks for about a decade during high school and college. The frequency of adults crapping themselves crapping in the pool was revolting. 2 stories of note. 1. I was working a party for the employees and their guests after normal park hours one night when a fellow supervisor and I noticed some shit prints meandering down the sidewalk. One employee followed the trail towards the bathrooms, hoping to find a child running frantically to make it. I followed the trail in the other direction, away from the bathroom, praying that I didn't find anything but the end of the trail. I make it about 15 drips down the path heading away from the bathroom towards the lazy river and look up only to see a giant woman, built like a house, wearing a floral one piece. She has a giant crap stain on her butt and just streams of diarrhea running down both legs. She is just strolling along, not a care in the world. I had to spend hours scrubbing crap off a texture concrete surface because some giant woman must have gambled on a fart and couldn't care less that she had buckets of crap piling up in her bathing suit. 2. One time an autistic kid was floating around the river and just dropped trow and let her rip. It was one massive, and I mean giant, turd. We had to chase it around the current and scoop it out. It was larger than any baked potato I have ever seen, was girthier than my clenched fist, and weighed as much as a Qdoba Chipotle burrito. Long story short, never swim in a water park. If a public pool is roped off for maintenance, in my experience it's 80/20 someone shat in it and the pool techs needed to shock the pool with chlorine because of cryptosporidium concerns. Shitprints. A word I hope no one would ever need to invent. Employee comes to work one morning after partying all night. Nobody notices that she isn't 100%. Security guys later say she seemed fine. Employee gets to her station on an elevated platform. Doesn't follow procedures. Falls about 3 stories and dies right before gates were supposed to open. Used to work at Knott's Berry Farm in SoCal. A little kid went to ride the roller coaster Silver Bullet, a somewhat fast coaster with lots of twists and a couple of loops. I was one of the guys who checked the lap belt and whatnot before the ride took off. Kid looked scared but seemed like he was with his older brother and his friends. All the kids seemed to be a few years older, and probably didn't want to look like a chicken. Kid straight up shat himself. It made the seat extremely moist and definitely smelled of poo. As he got off the ride you could see liquid dripping down his leg as he rushed off. People in the back of the line didn't really know what was going on, but the front of the line, as well as this kid's brother and his friends who just off too, definitely knew. Poor guy. We had to shut down the ride for about 2 hours to sanitize but played it off as technical difficulties. Haha, I loved the Silver Bullet when I went in April. The park was nearly empty so you could go around twice without leaving your seat. Former Disney World cast member here. Here are some stories. While working at Club Cool, some father dropped his daughter pants and let her squat on the floor. I had a standoff with a guest for 3 hours in the Mission Space gift shop because he was trying to steal Vanillimations. Got told couple of times that I ruined someone's vacation. Met Warwick Davis. If you want horror stories, ask any cast member during the summer and you probably gonna get a Brazilian story. I worked on the cleaning crew at Soak City Knott's Water Park. Once I was mopping the bathroom and a dad and his kid were using the same stall to pee. And the kid says, "Dad, why is your penis so big?" And the dad just laughed and told him his would be that big someday. You could tell he was proud of his junk at that moment. Also, a little known fact is that women's bathrooms are 10 times nastier than men's bathrooms. People usually consider men slobs, but girls absolutely trash the bathroom, peeing all over the place, leaving tampons all over the place and other stuff. Also, I would not recommend going in the wave pool community pool. We frequently found poop, tampons and other stuff floating in there all the time. Volunteered at a fair one summer in my old town. Some mentally deficient guy got caught masturbating in the haunted house while one of the carts going through the ride rounded the corner and saw him in all his glory. I get away with this all the time. I just tell the policeman that I was pretending to be part of the ride, because seeing me rub one out is horrifying. Worked at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg in high school, renting out strollers and wheelchairs. We used to tweak the batteries on the electric scooters to boost the speed, and then have races around the park after it was closed. I've been going there for years. One trick I've learned is to use a bridge in the middle of the park. It's almost always faster. Lots of stairs though. When I went to Legoland. I was so excited I ran up and tried to hug a statue made of Legos and I cut my eye. And on that day, everything was not awesome. I worked at Paramount's Great America when that one guy jumped the fence at Top Gun, now called Flight Deck I think, to retrieve a hat and ended up getting kicked in the head by a rider. Top Gun is a suspension coaster. Your legs dangle and the track is over your head. The rider broke her femur and the guy died. I can attest to the fact that there is plenty of signage warning people not to enter the ride area, but people are really freaking stupid. Also, one of my friends got fired for credit card fraud there. Never even criminally charged for it. They just fired him and swept everything under the rug. I got a decent settlement check because the supervisors were making people work during their 10 minutes breaks. Apparently in their minds it was better to illegally make someone work during a break than to pay someone to work overtime. Only time I ever got overtime was Fright Fest because no one wanted to work in an amusement park during the fricking fall. I worked at a crappy theme park for 3 months, in my teens. One morning, I get to my ride, and there's blood fricking everywhere. Feathers, too. So I do my walk around, and there's half a goose. It took 3 maintenance guys 2 hours to find the other half. Goose suicide. Operated rides for 4 years. 2 moments stand out. The scariest moment I had was when lightning struck a utility pole below me. My position on the ride was about 50 feet up, knocking out power to my ride and forcing me and my supervisors to unload the ride in the middle of a lightning storm. The second was a guy who was very upset that I wouldn't let his kid who was a foot under the height requirement ride. I told him no early in the day, but one of my co-workers let the kid ride while I was on break. The family comes up later and the father, who was noticeably drunk, jumps 2 gates and over the tracks to threaten me with a knife. I called security and he ran. Not an employee, but I go to Universal Studios a lot. Here are a few tips. Always take the single rider option for any ride. The longest wait will be 10 minutes. The water rides aren't designed to get you wet. They are designed to get you soaked. Butterbeer is served in the Three Broomsticks restaurant, which always has a shorter line than the booths. Plus, the food there is really good. Unless you want to see a recreation of the wand choosing ceremony, skip the line outside of the wand shop and enter through the owl store. I love that place so much. I forget its name, but that roller coaster with the vertical chain climb where you select your own music is like the greatest thing ever. Kings Island rides operator here. A kid freaking jumped in the water at one of my rides, Congo Falls, going after a basketball after I denied him permission. I see him go in and I pound the e-stop and called it in. Police showed up, security, all my supervisors, and the freaking kid got away before they got there. So the little bastard caused a bunch of people to get stuck on the ride while we explained the rule about the water. Over at Extreme Sky Flare, it's a ripcord type ride where you swing back and forth on a long cable. Somebody got sick. Literally puked like 5 gallons of chunky crap back and forth over a 150-foot flight lane. There was so much freaking puke. We had to call park services to get enough Vauban puke absorber, and you could smell it throughout the whole area. Just a couple little horror stories. While working at Six Flags, maintenance was working on our larger SLC Boomerang. He was guiding the car back into the station, but did not look to make sure the floor was back in position. He steps where the floor isn't and falls a solid 15 feet to the ground. Best part of the story is that he looks around, realizes he's in a restricted zone, and puts on his neon vest before getting up off the ground. Worked for Disney World 05 college program. The full costumed characters aren't allowed to talk ever. Nearing the final days of the internship, several of the characters would whisper into children's ears variants of, "Only you can hear me, help me, Goofy will hurt you," etc. Other than that, a crap ton of suicides happen at the happiest place on earth. If you're a guest, are hungry, and don't wish to pay Disney's exorbitant prices for food, lie to the cashier, say you dropped your food or similar. Company policy: the guest is always right. Employees may never argue with a guest. They'll know you're full of it. Oh, and if a cast member ever says to you, "Have a Disney day," this is a secret way of saying frick you. The older hotels are riddled with asbestos, though this has likely changed. With little exception, every face character is a major prick. Not a worker, but I witnessed this. At a local water park there is a slide called the Triple Dip. The slide lives up to the name and dips 3 times. A really small kid rode down it once and just started rolling and doing backflips because he was too small. At the end of the slide he basically just got up and walked away acting like nothing happened. I work in the games department at a major amusement park. I'm in upper management, so I've been around for a while. Horror story: I was walking around the park. We call it taking a lap, checking on all the different area supervisors to make sure they were all set. I get into the children's area and see a game that has 10 plus guests waiting to play, but no associate working. So I hop in and start helping guests. After about 10 minutes, they all leave. So I'm peeved because there should be someone working the game, but there isn't. I call the supervisor and prepare to chew them out. He tells me that there should be 2 associates working there at the moment. So I start looking around, knowing that they're in trouble now. Eventually, I climbed the ladder to the attic where we keep the stock for the game. I found the 2 associates. The dude was mid-thrust when I blurted out what the actual frick the 2 were fricking in the attic of a game in the children's area. I immediately called security and fired them both. Then, I had the supervisor spend the rest of his shift working that game. Advice: pack a lunch. Our food department is disgusting. Next, don't wait in the really long lines. A 2-hour line isn't worth it for a 4-minute long ride. Finally, come on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The rest of the week will be packed. Back when I worked at a relatively large East Coast theme park, we had what many called the craziest shutdown anyone had seen or heard about. The ride I was working was a dark ride, a motion simulator that followed a track and had 3D projection screens. I was closing in the control room that night where we would dispatch ride vehicles, RVs, and monitor ride cameras and the ride control screen. Over the headset, I hear that an intoxicated male couple was coming up to ride. Okay, fair enough. As they were getting on, they were acting slightly belligerent, so was informed to watch them through the ride by the loader. In scene 1, the ride has 11 scenes. They begin to make out. Fair enough. It happens all the time. I was narrating it over the headset since it was a slow night and we were all shooting the crap. In scene 3 I see their hand moving due south and next thing I know they're standing up in the RV. At this point I depress the emergency stop and all the ride work lights come up with all the RVs stopping in place. I then call the ride down explaining the e-stop is due to a drunk couple standing up. Here's where it gets interesting. They decided to slip their way out of the lap bars and begin climbing out of the RV. I get on the ride mic telling them to please return to your sleigh. They're also called sleighs. Little did I know I selected all. Call on the touchscreen for the ride mic and people down at the ride entrance and passers-by were randomly hearing me yelling, "Please return to your sleigh." I scan the monitor attempting to find them in the ride area and cannot for the life of me find them. At this point the entrance host calls controls to ask what the heck is going on. I explain and he bursts out laughing. I hear my supervisor's keys jingling as she's running up the exit platform as she's laughing from the call over the radio about a drunk male's couple standing up and climbing out. Once she arrives, we do a ride evac so we can reset from the e-stop and to walk the track to find the culprits. After about 30 minutes, we can't find them and give up and start cycling the ride again before going back up. We check the control screen to see if there had been any ride doors recently opened and none had since that morning when maintenance was clearing the ride for operation. At close we all had to fill out witness statements for security and we all had a good laugh. Next morning, maintenance tells us they found 2 condom wrappers in scene 3, the scene they escaped in. To this day, we have no idea where the heck they ended up. TL. DR. Drunk male couple escapes ride never to be seen again. When I was a kid, my first job was at Six Flags over Texas, early 2000s. I know many of the workers who lost their virginity inside that park, but I will tell you some of the other kinds of things. 1. The rides which are designed to be ridden in the dark. Yeah, those are freaking terrifying with the lights on. The ride designers don't have to worry about one particularly unsettling thing: how it looks when a ride is running right at another line of track. Those dark rides get amazingly close to running into solid objects. 2. Most parks have quick passes where you can wait in line without waiting in line. Use them. 3. Should be obvious, but remember, almost all the people working there are kids. They don't give a frick about the job. Just remember that when you yell at them. I have seen men or workers punch guests because the guests were dongs. 4. Rides are amazingly safe. The only way to ever actually get hurt is to do something excessively wrong. Like really wrong. 5. Bit of spice. When I worked there, we had a little game we would play. We would try to get as many phone numbers as possible during a shift. It is how I learned to talk to girls, and it was a blast. 6. If you get to the park at opening, go to the rides as far from the entrance as possible first and work backwards. Your whole day will have shorter lines. 7. Have fun. 8. Stupid little story. We used to ride the rides without safety equipment on. I quite seriously almost died on one. I separated from the ride while on a curve. My buddy, who was actually using his seat bar, was quick enough to hold on to me just long enough for me to reach the train long enough to stay attached. Teenagers are freaking stupid. Added fun fact: of all the rides at SFO, Mr. Freeze is the most likely to not return to the station, aka you get stuck. It requires a firing of a second set of Lin motors, think big butt electromagnets, to give it enough velocity to overcome the first hill after you start again going backwards. Also, if this happens you valley, which is to say you go back and forth until eventually friction stops you. Then staff will tie the train to the track to keep it established until you can be evacuated. Then they have to get a crane and take the train off the track. Whatever that indoor mountain roller coaster is at Six Flags over Texas always scared the crap out of me. I could tell how close we would come to the track over our heads, or whip right next to the wall. I could tell. And I've actually had the thought I'll never ride this again if I see it with the lights on. I still don't put my hands up on it, for fear of losing one. Haha. Tips from a WDW cast member: don't bother buying bottled water. All of the quick service, fast food restaurants, as well as any stand that has a soda fountain, will give you a free cup of ice water. If you're going to watch any of the parades at Magic Kingdom, it is much better to find a spot in the Liberty Square Frontierland area, especially Liberty Square for the new daytime parade if you want to see all the effects, as the fire-breathing dragon can't breathe fire in certain places in Frontierland as there are too many trees. Try to learn a little bit about the property before you get here. I'm so tired of people asking me where Disneyland is at Magic Kingdom, or where the monorail is at Animal Kingdom, or where the Harry Potter section is. People promise their kids they'll go on a ride or see a show that hasn't existed for years. Take advantage of fast passes, but understand that our new system is still a little wonky. For example, at the moment, you can get 3 fast passes a day for one park and one park only. You can't get 2 for Hollywood Studios and 1 for Magic Kingdom. Yes, it sucks. And yes, you like the old system better, but that's how it is now. And finally, I don't know what it is about being at Disney that makes you all want to make us break character, but it's kind of annoying. We're not the guards outside of Buckingham Palace. I don't know what you expect to accomplish by asking us if the guy in Mickey Mouse is hot or anything like that. You know the answer and I know the answer, but no matter how many times you wink at me, I'm still going to tell you that Mickey Mouse is Mickey Mouse and he doesn't have anyone inside of him any more than you do. So just chill, okay? When I worked at the happiest place on earth in Cali, we always gave the nice guests the special treatment. Act like an butt and we would only make things harder for you. The cast members I worked with were always incredibly nice and would do anything for the guests. So if you treated them poorly they would do the exact same thing to you. I myself made many a guest's day crappy because they wanted to get snippy with me. Also, Like the person down there said, have a magical day was our version of F you. My personal version was a southern accent. Made them feel extra stupid. I worked at an aquarium once. One day this man came in with his infant son and started holding him over the shark tank and pretending to throw him in like an idiot. Surprise surprise, he then drops the kid in the freaking tank. The kid smacks his head on a rock and starts bleeding in this huge tank filled with sharks. A few people quickly jumped in and saved the kid from being eaten. Goes to show some people should just have been a stain on the sheets. I hope child protection services were called and the father reported. I worked a roller coaster park, and whenever people would complain that they were lost or had to go to the bathroom, I'd get them on the path to the really expensive bathrooms. I miss playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. Free soda, $10 bathrooms. I worked at a water park. It was towards the end of the day and I was pushing the tubes down at the top of the slide. People started looking at me funny and looking around strangely. I started hearing people talking about poop but dismissed it as nothing. Then someone came up to me and told me to look at the platform below us. I look down and what do I find but a big load of human crap nicely placed on the middle of the stairs. I worked at a low-grade park mainly known for their go-karts for 2 years. The horrors were in the minute. We constantly had kids purposely try to hit you with carts. I witnessed one kid hit my co-worker at full speed. My co-worker tried jumping over the cart at the last minute, but that was the worst possible action. His knee ended up hitting the kid in the head and knocked him out going full speed into a wall. My co-worker then flipped a few times, finally landing on his face. When all was said and done, 2 people were hauled off in an ambulance, one with a concussion, and the other with a broken nose and cheekbone topped off with some busted teeth. My favorite was when a group of rich guys came through and started making bets on who would win each race on the go-karts. The same guy won twice in a row and was quickly up about $1,000. So, one of his friends pulled me off to the side and asked if there was a way to make him lose. What people generally don't know is that there is a control panel which controls the speed of the car remotely. This gets used if someone is getting too rowdy or breaking the rules or something of that nature. So, I told him about the control panel and he offered me $100 to make sure he takes last. I agree, and he goes off to entice this guy into another bet. This time he bets him $1,000 that he'll take dead last. This guy was bold. He wasn't just going for his money back, he was going for everyone's money. The ensuing 12 laps were the best of my career at that park. Every time this guy got alongside someone, I brought him down a bit. Every straightaway, I would drop his speed by about 5 miles per hour. By the end of it this guy was furious. He paid up and stormed out of the park. Just cause you're the best doesn't mean you'll win. The smartest will usually find a way to win. That kid in the first story deserved it. I worked at a certain park for 2 summers. The stuff I saw made me never want to come back as an employee or a guest. I'm gonna keep this vague for multiple reasons, but you will probably guess where I worked. The biggest horror story came from the fact that I spent those 2 years in fear of losing my job every single day. Food employees were required to try to sell a certain product to every person who approached the counter. It didn't matter if they just wanted a cup of free water or already had 10 of this item. We had to try to sell the product to them. The problem came in that there were secret shoppers checking on this. If they caught an employee not asking customers about this product, the employee could be terminated on the spot. I watched multiple friends get fired because of this. My second year I had a management position. I thought this would fix the fear. I was wrong. If I or an employee under me didn't sell this product, I would be demoted and transferred to another area. Now I had to make sure that my co-workers were upselling also. As for advice for navigating parks, avoid holidays, go early in the week, and learn which rides are the most popular because they will have the longest lines. I was a scare actor, walk around, at Six Flags theme park for Fright Fest a couple years back. I was in costume and heavy makeup. The guests seem to forget that the actors are actual people, and not statues that they can do whatever the frick they want to. My hair was pulled, and I was often touched inappropriately. Also, people seem to think it's funny to show up to a theme park completely wasted, so I was thrown up on a couple of times. But by far the worst experience in my short time of employment there was when I scared this donghead's girlfriend to the point of tears and pee herself. and he punched me in the gut. Not sure if this matters, but I'm a female, and my costume made no point to hide the fact. I could have retaliated physically, but I would have likely been fired. So all I could do was say, "Thanks, kind stranger," and alert park security. He was thrown out of the park, along with his other girlfriend. Sorry, but don't come to fricking Fright Fest if you don't want to be fricking frightened. My advice for enjoying yourself: get a season pass if it's local and you intend to go regularly. There are usually perks, such as shorter wait time and food discounts, that make your time more enjoyable. Don't bring things that would devastate you to lose. Leave has, cell phones, etc. in your car. I know the concept of not having your phone shoved up your butt for more than 30 minutes is terrifying, but getting on a ride and watching it fall to the ground beneath you and shatter beyond repair is worse. Also, stay hydrated. There tends to be a significant amount of heat injuries during the spring, summer, and early fall at amusement parks. If you can't stand water, buy some Crystal Light to put in your water. Pour Crystal Light all up in that crap and drink it all day. I liked your story. I will from now on put Crystal Light all up in that crap. Legoland, California here. We pump different scents into the air to make you hungry. Vanilla, cinnamon, peppermint throughout the day, BBQ at night, and bacon in the morning. Preferred parking is a ripoff. You'll park 50 feet closer and pay $10 more. We're all faking that smile. It's not that we're all unhappy, it's just that we aren't all that happy. You can bring food in with you and avoid the amazing markup for food in the park. You're not nearly as creative as you think when you try to get free stuff or jump the lines. If you give us a ticket that was scanned 2 months ago and claim it has never been used, we know at least 20 people a day try it. Ambassador passes, lifetime pass and unlimited preferred parking for $2,500 is a ripoff. You would have to go to Legoland about 40 times in order to break even on the cost of single admissions. Nobody needs to go to this park that many times. Besides, once your kids are over 10-12, there is very little to do in the park. We close the closest parking lots to the door before they fill up because we want you to buy preferred. Don't argue with the parking director out there. She's just doing what the supervisor said to do. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.